Hello, I'm C. Edward Baldwin, and you're watching The Ink Report. The 2016 presidential election season is well underway. We're mere weeks away from the first major debate, which of course will take place on the Republican side. There will be a lot of people tuning in that night, mostly to see the Donald. Everyone is wondering what he may say and how will the other candidates respond to him. I, for one, am not that concerned about what he will say, because I know that whatever he says will be a carefully choreographed dance between him and the other candidates, namely Jeb Bush. I, for one, is not falling for what's going on the Republican side. Donald Trump will not be the presidential nominee on the Republican side. Donald knows that. The Republican Party knows that. Jeb Bush knows that. In fact, I say that Jeb Bush and Donald Trump are working a nice little choreographed routine, all in the effort to fool the American public. Watch this clip. Meet me on the other side.
Talking about Trump? Yeah. Well, I didn't talk to him about it that much. In fact, no questions. Interesting that no questions come up about Donald Trump. I do think, though, from a Republican Party perspective, we have to be big and bold, not divisive and angry. We have to be hopeful and optimistic, not deeply pessimistic. We're never going to win if we're a grievance party. We'll win if we offer something that gives people hopes their lives are going to get better. And Mr. Trump has every right to have every belief he has. He's going to run, that's fine. But I don't want to be associated with the kind of vitriol that he's spewing out these days.
And we have nothing. And yesterday, Iraq went to Iran, their meeting. They're going to merge. And exactly what I said in the Reuters article. And you asked that question. It took him 4 days to say an answer. So I just think you're so wrong on him. I think I think that Bush is a nice man. I call him, he's a man that doesn't want to be doing what he's doing. To be honest, I call him the reluctant warrior. And warrior is probably not a good word. But I think Bush is an unhappy person. I don't think he has any energy. And I don't see how he can win.
Now, those are supposed to be insults. Jeb Bush threw a mild softball at Donald Trump, saying he wants to disassociate himself from the Donald's comments. The Donald says Jeb Bush appears to be unhappy about running. That's not even a serious game of the dozens. I've been called worse by my best friend. Those not even good insults. Here's my theory. After 8 years of George W., the Republican Party realized that the nation's appetite for another Bush wasn't too great. We didn't want to see Bush anywhere near the White House. But they want this Bush in office. He's their best candidate. So how do you make Jeb Bush more palatable when his brother screwed it up so bad? You bring on the Donald. You have the Donald distract with talk of immigration and hurling insults everywhere. And while the Donald is doing that, what is old Jeb doing? Well, old Jeb is telling you exactly what he plans to do should he get to office, which is eliminate Medicare, which is what the Republicans consider another entitlement benefit. And if you recall, his brother tried to get rid of the Social Security system. You remember he wanted to take the Social Security system and move it to the private sector. And then he started on Medicare with that Medicare Part D, trying to start a little voucher system for that, which was part one of what his brother's talking about doing with the overall Medicare system, move it to the private sector. And it's so amazing to me how Republicans always talk about the private sector as if it's some great Greek god that's going to heal all things. Let me tell you what the private sector is. The private sector is corporate America. And I don't know about you, but I hadn't forgotten the last time corporate America played such a big part in the American economy. Remember '08, the last time Bush was in office? Yeah, they about sank the thing. And where does Mr. Trump come from? Mr. Trump, those Mexicans are rapists. He comes from the private sector. He is a businessman. So you can't convince me that Donald Trump, the businessman, does not want Jeb Bush, the politician, in office. The Donald doesn't want to run this country, but he certainly wants to affect policy, just like all Republicans do. Republicans have not liked any of the so-called entitlement benefits since their creation. They never liked Social Security. They don't like Medicare. They cannot stand Obamacare. They look at all that as entitlement. Because how can you give people that when we have all these tax cuts for the rich we need to put in place? So if you want Bush, the man who's telling you what he's going to do about Medicare, and the man who has his whole life been working toward the presidency, and you have Donald Trump, who do you think the Republicans want on the in office? Donald Trump does not want to run the office. He doesn't want the day-to-day of the job of the presidency, but he does want to affect policy. And he's playing a role right now. And that role is to create so much of a distraction that we'll take our eyes off of George Bush. Donald Trump is out talking about Mexicans' immigration. And what is Jeb Bush out talking about? Taking your Medicare away. Trying to fool the seniors that, oh, we're not going to take your Medicare, it's future generations. Well, where does that future start? Is it people who are now 50? Is it people who are now 60? Or is it people who are now 45? You don't know. He's planning on getting rid of the whole system. And once he gets rid of Medicare, Social Security is next. Seems we never have money for those two things, but we always have money for the rich, for those tax cuts, for businessmen, big corporate tax cuts. That's where the Donald comes in. So he's playing a role now. He hasn't said anything extremely harmful to George about Jeb Bush. Lobbed a couple softballs over there. Even the thing he said about John McCain was soft. It was a softball. Like I said, I've been called worse by friends and family playing the dozens. That wasn't even a good game of the dozens. You're not a war hero. Oh, maybe you are. Maybe you're not. All distractions. Republicans have always been notorious for distractions. For years, they fooled the religious right, talking about abortion, and then get in office and do nothing about it. Talking about prayer in schools, knowing they don't give a rat's ass about it. Now the big buzzword is immigration. And their all-time favorite, terrorism. Keep people concerned about things that really aren't as serious as the Republicans are making them, all in an effort to distract and get you away, or get your eyes off your Social Security, get your eyes off your Medicare, get your eyes off your health care. And it's amazing. You look at so many of the people in the Tea Party. Do any of those people look like they can afford Medicare? Does any of those people look like they can afford not to have Medicare, not to have Social Security? Of course not. But go talk to a man. What are they most concerned about? Terrorism. Most concerned about a terrorist shooting them or blowing them up. Something that's not likely to happen. But what's more likely to happen is you're not having any money in your old age. And you're not being able to take care of yourself. Because of the elimination of the so-called entitlement benefits. While Donald Trump gets more and more or bigger and bigger tax discounts that he doesn't need. He tells you already, I'm rich. And he's going to get richer. So the Donald, Jeb Bush, nice choreographed dance, but it's all smoke and mirrors. Jeb Bush will be the Republican nominee for president. There's no doubt in my mind. And the Donald, he's probably going to get that big, huge discount that he's been gunning for anyway. Americans, open your eyes, please.